I'm just going to record to the computer because I don't understand the cloud thing yet. So soon enough, we'll be doing that.
See, no.
Hey, Lonnie, how are you?
I'm good.
Hi, thank you, Keith.
And I invited Roz, so Rosie may join us. ROZ.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. We're, oh,
It'll
here,
work.
I got Michelle. And let me just make sure I'm getting everybody in here.
Hey,
Hello.
Hey, shoot. Sherry, maybe, why don't you, Sherry, see if you can ask for permission to take control. And if you can, then I'll give you control and then we'll be on our way.
It is recording, Keith.
Yeah,
I see a record button.
yeah, let's not worry about it. It's okay.
Oh, here we go. I think I did reclaim host. Are we good? Am I in charge now?
Well, I hope so.
It does say recording at the upper left corner there.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Somebody better be in control of this, this group of yahoos that we got on here, huh?
It looks like we have 12 people so far.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah. And well, I'm just going to kind of kick things off. Sherry, if you'll watch for other people showing up, I'd really appreciate it. And that way I can just kind of
Yeah, I got
get
you.
going. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being on here today. You know, I feel like it's been a long time since I've been on here. You know, it was a few weeks since the last one, and then I was gone for a little while, and so it's just great to see everybody, and I appreciate all of you, of course, right? But it's really good to be on here. I'm just was really looking forward to it. So today we're going to have quite a full meeting, so I'm going to get going right away here. Kim is going to talk to us a little bit about her newest event, and she had an accident and she had to have some surgery, and so I'd like to have Kim take 5 to 10 minutes right in there, Kim, and tell us what's going on, how you dealt with that. And, you've always got such a positive attitude, and I just love that about you. And I just want to give you the opportunity. We want to give you the opportunity to continue to tell us how you got through all that and all that. So, and then we're going to have Tony DeCenzo talk to us. And Tony is he's a psychological and emotional counselor here in Central Oregon. He's been here for, I want to say 25 years, Tony, is that what it is?
3.
23?
3.
3. I thought you'd
3
been in
years.
this area for that long.
No, I've been a licensed psychotherapist for 21 years.
Oh, okay. Well, we're just going to call it that you've been here a long time.
It's a long time.
Anyway, well, thank you for correcting me on that. I was mistaken on that, but we're really looking forward to it because he's going to talk about some specific things that as stroke survivors we go through, and we're just going to kind of open it up and talk. And then at the end, he's also going to talk about some insurance things that when I was talking to Tony, he and I met, I wasn't even aware of some of this stuff. So great stuff. And so, gosh, we're going to just get kicked off here. So, I'm sorry?
cheese? Yes.
Oh, and if you guys can, if you don't mind, let's mute unless you have a question or something. And that way it'll stay quiet for the speaker as well. I would appreciate that. So, Kim, gosh, kick us off for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't want to kill this by telling what's happened. So if you would take that,
All right.
I would appreciate it.
Okay. I really wanted to share today. Most of you don't know, Michelle, right after you fell, I saw you, we had our vaccinations. And I ended up slipping and falling in my bedroom, smack down on the wood floor. And I was taken to the emergency room and I broke my hip. And yeah, it was that. And but what ensued from that was pretty amazing. And I will say, when I got home, so St. Charles was amazing. I had surgery. I came through it. I was in inpatient and I did really well in inpatient. I knew I was going to be okay. But when I got home, so I'm in a wheelchair. I'm in a wheelchair. I can't put any weight on my left leg. I'm either on a walker or a wheelchair. And I have to tell you, you all know that when I had my stroke, I've never not had one moment of depression. Now, I didn't go so far as to have depression, but I didn't realize how rough it was. And I might cry because I feel as if my positivity, and I've always talked about, how I took the journey with joy. And so when I got home, it was not joyous. I was huffing and puffing and struggling. I was struggling, and I realized, I talked with Lanae, and I went, oh my gosh, this is not easy. And for all of our friends that are in a wheelchair that aren't able to get out of a wheelchair from a stroke, I felt, I've made some phone calls to some of them, and I just feel that it's not easy, and I think that I just wanted to say to everyone how all of my gratitude and my taking the journey with joy was never to make any one of you feel badly about your progress. And I felt like maybe that was true. And I made a phone call to one of our members, and I spoke to the caregiver, and I broke down and cried. And she admitted that it was hard for them to ask for help. And, I think it's important that we don't measure our progress up to somebody else. As we all say that strokes are different for everyone, but my message is still the same. When I realized that I was struggling and just kind of having a tough time, I remembered to turn my attitude around. The truth is, ever since I had the stroke, I wake up in the morning, and as soon as I put my foot down on the ground, I'm reminded that I've had a stroke. And then the next thing I do is, what can I do? Where can I think differently? Where can I act differently? What can I do to uplift myself? Lanae and I talk a lot about, we're every day having to turn it around. I'm over 6 years. And if I've ever given anyone the impression that I don't have hard times once in a while, that I don't crack up, or that it's not, that it's just such a piece of cake, that is not true. We are really strong people when we've had stroke, and we meet, I feel monstrous a lot of times. I feel ugly. I have all of the same things that everyone has. And I just really wanted to, share that when I had this happen to me, it really made me have much more compassion for those that are in a chair, much more compassion for just the road we're on, and I am still very grateful. And I still wake up every day now saying, okay, what can I do? What can I do to help somebody else? What can I do to, feel better? I think we do have a responsibility to ourselves, but I'm able to do that. I've been doing it. And I do know now that some people cannot do that. And so I just want to say that I love you all. And we do have quite a road, don't we? And we're here for each other. And if you utilize other people and you reach out when you don't want to reach out, you know, when you hurt and you don't want to share, do it anyway. And, you know, we can help each other along this road. And I just wanted to share that. And I'm okay. I hurt. Geez, this is painful. But I mean, wow, it's painful. But, you know, I'm getting past it. And
Kim,
I'm just
Kim.
grateful for us all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm not joking. That you're gonna bring the tears to my eyes too. That was powerful. That was very powerful. And it was from your heart. And you don't want to hurt people. I think we all know that about you. You are a very positive person. You've always been very positive and go, 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 and you push people. And there's nothing wrong with that, Kim. And I want you to know that we all care about you and love you. And thank you for sharing. That was very powerful to me. I want you to know that. So thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, actually, what you've just talked about feeds right in to having Tony speak for us. Okay. Wow, that was a good one. Way to go, Kim. Way to make me look like that. Tony is a psychological and emotional counselor, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about his own journey and what he's done. But it's right on the button of what you're talking about. You know, Kim, I mean, we all go through these emotions, and that's what he helps people with. And I'm so excited to have him on here. And so, Tony, just unmute yourself and let's get into it here, buddy.
I'm so glad you said that about the mute. I would not have known. I would have thought I was on a lip reading session. Thank you, Keith.
So yeah, could you just kind of take it away? I mean, I know all your attributes and stuff, but I just want you to kind of take it away and tell us about yourself, and then let's get into it.
Great, Keith. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm so glad I'm following Kim. What a great start, even for this part of things. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I've been doing this for 21 years, licensed here in Oregon and also in California, and love this work. And so I met Keith, and when we were talking about kind of some things that we do in our lives, and he thought it might be advantageous for me to come and talk to you and provide some information and answer any questions and just be kind of service to you and available to see if that might, you know, offer you something of value. I'm so glad Kim shared, because I'll just use this kind of an example. If all of us were to, you know, walk out of our room here and bang our elbow on the door or something like that, I mean, really bang it. You know, the first thing we're going to think is that, you know, okay, I banged my elbow. I'm just going to keep moving on with my life, and that's going to get better. It's going to be sensitive. It's going to be sore, but over time, it's going to heal itself. And to Kim's point, you know, similar, you know, something may happen to us, a change in our medical condition or our physical condition. And so we move forward, we push forward with resiliency, and oftentimes it resolves itself and we just keep moving. Other times, not so much. If I were to crack my elbow on that door and break something, then I might move forward, but to the point that I begin to suffer and it seems like it's not resolving itself, at some point I may want to seek some help. And typically a doctor is going to set that bone and set it up so that it heals as it's supposed to. We're very resilient as human beings. And so the idea, I think, here that I might, you know, start with is oftentimes when I see people who have had a change in their medical or physical condition, I see similar things to those who have suffered some kind of a significant loss in their life. So, for example, you know, examples of significant loss might be the death of a loved one or a family member. loss of a significant job or a career, loss of a marriage or relationship. And so similarly, we might think of our health in the same way. If I suffer something, if I damage my arm, for example, in a way that I now can't use my arm in the way that I've been using it, I've got to adjust to that in some way. Now I've got to move forward without the same use of my arm. And that brings a natural process in me to try to come to terms with that. How do I come to terms with that in this change in my life that is fairly significant? And what that can bring, similar to grief and loss, are mental health symptoms. I might, to Kim's point, I might accept that this has happened. And so that is something we can change. It's the one thing we can do is change our thoughts. I might wake up in the morning and go, oh crap, gravity is still on me. Gravity is still weighing on me. I have to take this body out of bed and move forward, and it's just laborious. And I'm tired of gravity weighing on me. Or I can say, I can do that. I get the opportunity to pull myself out of bed and move forward with my day. So an attitude shift, to Kim's point, can really make a difference. At the same time, suffering a loss, the body goes through a natural process of grief and loss. Ultimately, it's kind of, I don't want to bore you with some of the details. I'm happy to answer the question if you want to know what those 5 stages of grief and loss are. Ultimately, we end up with something called acceptance, which just means we have gone through a natural process of mental and emotional healing so that we can then really accept what has happened, whether I've lost a loved one or I've lost a relationship, a career, or some part of my health that now requires that I function even at a decreased capacity or just some significant change. This process that we naturally go through, if we'll allow it, ultimately we end up in a place of acceptance, and then we can embrace moving forward without carrying this weight of denial and not coming to terms with what's actually happened to my arm, for example. The symptoms that can come from that are things, and maybe you've experienced some of this, a change in my mood, sadness, depression, crying spells that seemingly come out of nowhere, lack of energy, lack of focus and concentration. These are all, they're requiring my resources against my will, by the way, because my body is trying to go through this natural process, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to come to terms with this really and allow myself to go through it. Other things like sleep deprivation. I can't sleep at night, or it takes me a long time to get to sleep. And then when I finally get to sleep, I'm waking up during the night. Ultimately, in the next day, I'm drained of energy, and it just repeats itself. Agitation, irritability, anger. Anger, by the way, is a natural process that we go through over something like grief and loss or a significant change in our lives. Anxiety, depression, even thoughts of wanting to end my life. So these can be the things that are at play in my body, in my emotional state, that I can either allow and become aware of, or I can just try to push it down and push it away, all the while dragging it with me. It's going to constantly be saying, hey, I'm still here. I'm not going away. I'm not that, bump on the elbow that you hoped would go away. I'm something that really wants and needs your attention. And so at that point, we might then be able to say, okay, maybe I would suffer less if I begin to look at this differently and gain some support and maybe talk to somebody who can help me process all of these things. So I don't have to do it alone, and I can actually be aware of what I'm supposed to be going through. So that's just something that I might go through as an individual who has now experienced a significant change in my physical health, or my medical health, same thing. But then now let's say I'm married or I'm in a relationship. Well, that's going to have an impact on that relationship as well. So now I'm compounding the effects of this thing that I've experienced. And now I'm starting to, let's just call it suffer in some way in my relationship. He or she is now experiencing a change in me. They're going to go through their own process, similar in symptoms, anger, agitation, irritability, confusion, lack of sleep, conflict, and all of these things. And so now I'm compounded. I've got my own situation I'm trying to accept and understand and embrace. Now I've got trouble in my relationship or my marriage, and I don't know how to navigate through that. We're both, at odds with each other, don't know what to do for ourselves and each other. And so you get the picture. This can create, a pretty dynamic nightmare, if you will. And so I guess the point of this is that, to Kim's point again, there are things that we are so resilient that we can just get through, even significant things. What might affect me as a significant change in my life that might cause me actual clinical depression. For somebody else, they may be able to, I don't want to say sail right through it, but they may be able to move through it without the same suffering or the same significant impact in their functioning. Maybe there was something in my child, I don't want, the variables are probably infinite. My childhood, what I bring to the world, who I am in the world, who I am, my resiliency may be different than somebody else's who's able to get through that easier. The point of it all is that if I experience this thing that I can't move through or that doesn't seem to be resolving itself, there's certainly help. And on top of that, there is insurance that covers things like any symptoms of mental health. So for example, depression is a common one when we're talking about grief and loss. And so I don't know of any insurance companies or insurance policies that don't cover mental health. They may be out there, but I've not heard of any, and I've seen a lot of clients over the years. And so, some of those are, they have deductibles, others are 100% covered. Some of them have copays. They all vary, but typically in my experience anyway, they all cover mental health. Some of them with even unlimited sessions. So you might see somebody like myself or another therapist who can just begin to give you information and understanding and knowledge about the typical symptoms of mental health that come with grief and loss, and help move through that either on a weekly basis or every 2 weeks or whatever is most helpful to help you move through that. Counseling also can include just individual, it can include family, it can include couples or marriage therapy. Ultimately, it's to help understand what we've gone through, what we're currently going through, what's in there that's trying to come up that for some reason, probably because I don't want it to come up, needs to come up, but isn't. And so how can I move through that? And how can we as a couple or even a family begin to understand what's going on, what the changes are, what the symptoms are that are being presented, and how to ultimately come to the other side of that. Ideally, it would be to maybe even discuss, some things that can happen, and I'll end with this. I don't want to get too long-winded here, but some of the things that can come with therapy in a person's life, by the way, no matter what they're in for, right? Just to gain some insight, some awareness, some information, education, and cognitive and emotional processing, their own process, they can end up on the other side of that better than what they were before. Just because they've gained some awareness and some experience with their own process, they may discover things that they didn't even know about themselves, or interests that they suddenly have discovered that they didn't know before they got into therapy and started having some support for their own process. So I guess where I'm going with that is that even with loss, at the other end can come something that was even better than when we started, right? Just because of the personal development of oneself.
Wendy is F, huh? Sorry.
No worries. I didn't hear what you said though. Were you talking to me? Oh, okay.
Windy.
Okay.
It's really windy outside. Rick just came.
Okay. So I think that's about it. Again, it's just a little bit of information. The idea being that we're so resilient, Kim. Your demonstration of that is ideal. It's just this resilience and this determination that nothing is going to stop us or get us down. There's nothing we can't move through. I'm so with you on that, and it doesn't have to be as tough as it might be in the moment. There's a whole world of resource and availability to help us shore up energy and strength and resiliency in that quest that Kim was talking about. It can be quite an amazing experience and very healing. So I guess that's just a piece, I suppose. I don't know if there might be any questions or if there's something I can help with specifically.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It was great.
I've got one, but Lane, you had one. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself,
There.
There you go.
Lane.
I
She got
did.
it.
Oh,
Mike, so, hi, Tony. My
Hi, Lana.
question reads, I am 6 years post-stroke, as I think most of you know. What I have found is, and I don't really, not too sure how to process this. I think depression can go in waves. So, I can find, for example, now at 6 years, I'm thinking, at the beginning of this journey, I thought I can do this, I'll get through this. And I have actually, in many ways, done well, but I still have waves of depression where I feel like I'm back dealing with a new stroke. Could you address that?
Well, yeah, fantastic, Lane. And I know you are a tough individual. I mean, I'll go on a limb and say that. I know you a little bit, but what I do know, you are a tough, resilient individual. And it makes sense. I think the only way to really address it is just to know that that's normal and natural. The challenges in our lives are ongoing and constant to some degree. There may, just like our moods, or just like the variables in our lives that may change or be up, and our moods can be up and down, our energy level can be different. We might sleep well one night and not so much the next. The rhythms of our life are not necessarily always predictable. And so it does make sense that even for no apparent reason, we might go in waves of emotion or mood and things like that. It's a normal and natural thing. Some of what might help is kind of a foundation of what we use to am I able to support myself and accept that may be part of what's natural. If I'm somebody who can't take the moment and just allow myself to feel, when somebody's going through depression or they've just experienced a loss, I mean, does anybody like crying? Just raise your hand if you like crying, if you find that, you just enjoy crying, right? Right, Brett? Yeah, he's saying no, absolutely not. Crying to me is like throwing up. I really, really don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. But at the same time, I don't want to do it to the point that I'll just stop breathing. I'm not going to go there. I don't want to cry. It's not the right time. And the other fear is that if I start crying, I'm not going to stop. The
It's
concern
embarrassing.
And it can be embarrassing, humiliating. What kind of man am I that cries? All these things. The other thing is I hear from many clients that I'm afraid that if I allow myself to be sad or depressed, I'm going to fall on the floor and I may never get up. So we resist. We want to shut that up. We want to shut that down quickly. But I say to them, and it's true, that to the degree that we allow for that, if we can just let that be, almost like, I'm sorry to be crude, but almost like the throwing up piece. As soon as we can do that, we're ready to move forward. So in the case where a wave of depression, or just, especially, it's never the right time, just like crying or throwing up. But if we can just embrace that in ourselves and allow for it, the faster we can move through it and the more comfortably we can move through it. It's the holding it down, I think, that makes it all the worse. It's the idea that I should be further than this. This should have been past me already. Why am I still having to deal with this? And those are the thoughts that just make it even kind of worse. It just makes it more of a burden. So all I can suggest is just to embrace that. It's part of the depth of who you are as a person emotionally, that you can feel to that depth, and so maybe find a way even to appreciate it. They say depression helps people in their creativity. you might take the time to actually embrace that and kind of go deeper into it, for example. I don't know how creative you might be or if you enjoy creativity, but to be able to write something down in a journal and express those feelings, whether it's darkness that it feels like or something else. People write poetry in that place. They paint in that place. So I guess the answer,
Tony,
the
I have
long
a
answer.
question.
Yeah.
So some of us, and I won't mention any names, but some of us think we're tough too, and might not know when we really need to reach out for help. Are there
Okay.
any particular triggers or symptoms or behavioral kinds of things that you could give us that would tell us or our caregivers that we might really need to talk to somebody?
Great question, Steve. So I don't know if you've heard the saying, pain is inevitable, misery is optional. You ever heard that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if I were just to shoot from the hip, I would say that you could do that anytime, Steve. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to wait another minute longer than you want to. They say that recovery from drugs and alcohol or rehab or things like mental health, it's not for those who need it, right? Because everybody needs it. It's for those who want it. So I would suggest that if you think that you might, benefit from something like that, you don't need to continue to suffer. You don't have to wait until it gets to a certain level of pain and suffering before you do something about it. I mean, obvious signs of when you would definitely want to do that is when you're having thoughts of wanting to end your life, thoughts of wanting to harm yourself, thoughts of making a significant change. Sometimes the thought is the world would be better, or my significant other would be better, or my family would be better without me. Even if you're not thinking of ending your life in that moment, just the fact that you feel like a burden or heavy to people around you, it doesn't need to get to that place. With drugs and alcohol, they say you have to hit your bottom before you're ready to get treatment. And then others, which I like the saying, your bottom can be just where you stop digging. So it goes right back to the idea that, how much do I have to suffer before it should be time for me to get help? You don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
You can get help anytime. It's out there. And it's actually quite an interesting and fantastic process.
One thing, if I can interject just one thing, the thing that got me when I was talking to Tony was that insurance covers things. When I had my stroke and when I was going through all that, I didn't have a clue that my insurance would pay for somebody to help me get through the depressing times. I honest to God didn't. And so I just wanted to make a note of that, that a lot of us, I don't think, realize that the insurance would even help pay for some of the help that we may be looking for out there.
And on that point, Keith, we might not know, like our feelings can go up and down and all around. And so are we just feeling down a little bit? What Tony is saying is we don't have to suffer, but at what level is it going to be covered by insurance? And at what point is it, just get a good night's sleep and it'll be over?
Great question. Great question. That's a great question because, yeah, you're right. Insurance says it has to be medically necessary, which means that you need to be suffering to the degree that your functioning is impacted. Your functioning can be impacted in your daily life or at work or at school or in your relationships. The measure is fairly soft. And so, Steve, even if you were just having feelings, I mean, if you're thinking about, well, is this enough to seek help? I mean, that right there is enough, just that you're asking that question. It's up to the therapist to actually make a diagnosis of anxiety, depression, or whatever else it might be. It can be depression due to a medical condition. It can be so many things. That's the easy part.
But on that note, Tony, will a doctor feel, I guess they would, right? I mean, if I was seeing my doctor, is he going to ask me specific questions to see what level I am before he would write a prescription or whatever it is that you call it to come see you, for example?
So some insurance companies require that you get a doctor's referral to see a therapist. Some do. The only one that I'm working with that does that is TRICARE for active duty service members, military or veterans. Every other one, you don't need the doctor's recommendation or referral.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very good to know.
And typically,
I would like-
Keith,
I don't
yes,
think
Kim,
so.
I'll get right to you, Kim. The other thing about the medications, Keith, is that these days, a general practitioner can prescribe antidepressant or anti-anxiety medications. They're much more knowledgeable these days than at any time in the past. And typically, at least from my experience, clients who have come in, they've gone in and they've talked to their doctor. They're not trying to grill them. I mean, your want for help and support of a medication that might lift depression does not require, an interrogation. These days,
Well, but
Yeah.
I want to interject, and I'm sorry, you guys, give me one more second here. You said interrogation. I'm not seeing it that way, like you would be interrogating me. But I went through depression, and sure enough, my doctor gave me a prescription, to take, and that was the answer.
But so your point is that it's readily available, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, my point is
Oh.
that he didn't even offer to go see a therapist like yourself.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, yeah, that can happen too. I mean, doctors will prescribe. That's kind of what they do. They may not always, and depending on what you're sharing with them, they may not either think of it, or they may think that the medication may make the difference. Maybe at that point, if it doesn't, and you continue to talk to the doctor about whatever's going on, then they might refer. I can't answer for that. You're absolutely
Okay.
right.
Okay.
In fact, oftentimes I mean, talk to your doctor, but oftentimes you can take care of the issues and begin a process with talk therapy first. And if that doesn't take hold fast enough, then you might consider a consultation for medications. Not everybody wants to take a medication. So beginning with a therapist, may be more comfortable and may answer as a solution without medication. Yes, Kim.
I have a couple of points. I think it's absolutely that you don't want to diagnose yourself. If the willingness, if you just have to have willingness, that's it. You go to your doctor, no matter if it's a primary care, your primary care, if you're even sharing one moment of saying, this is really tough, or you're just going in after having a stroke, trust me, they are going to offer and say, would you like to talk to somebody? Stroke, every doctor knows that there is significant loss, that you are going through a significant loss. And you've lost your left side, you've lost your speech, you've lost it, there is not somebody that's not going to say to you. And so I want to just say that. And then the other thing is I'm 37, I'll be 38 years clean and sober, Tony, in November.
Congratulations.
And I will tell, yes, thank you. I will tell you, my experience in the program helped me with this incredibly, because I had to turn my life around, and all the tools that I learned, I practiced. And so I was willing, I was weeping, I was having my feelings, and it's so important to share your feelings. Exactly. I mean, and I think that's why I didn't have depression. I also am a meditator. I would meditate and I would be weeping with God, and then I would go through my day because I was allowing my feelings to happen. And I was sharing them. I had a friend like Lanae, and we would share our feelings. And it's so important to seek out help and let them say, here's what you need. there is no shame in that. You know, there is no shame. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you and congratulations. And yes, the 12 steps and AA and the fellowship of
you.
AA is a hell of a foundation. And so
Thank-
you probably had some things baked in that you could use and move with, especially the 3rd step and the 10th step. I mean, so many things that you could use. And also, you know, people, as you probably know too, they come into AA or NA or any number of 12-step programs, and then suddenly, you know, they get clean and sober, and then things start to come up that they were masking before. And so therapy and 12-step programs can also work well together. But yeah.
We have some other questions, you guys?
Is everybody in Oregon?
I have a question. I have a
Go
question.
ahead, Joyce.
What if you never reach acceptance? Where you go all your life and never reach acceptance? Does that happen?
I
Tony,
had a hard time
Let
hearing you.
me reiterate her question for you. She said, what if you never achieve acceptance? What if you never accept the situation?
Well, that's a good question. I would want to know more about the question itself. I don't know what you mean by acceptance in that question. Maybe I would ask, what do you mean by acceptance?
What do you mean by acceptance?
Well, okay.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Thank you. So acceptance doesn't necessarily mean I'm fine with this. I don't. I can take it or leave it. Whether it, on the subject of do I want this? If this thing happens, is it preferable to me or not? I don't care either way. That's not necessarily acceptance in terms of do I want this in my life? Why don't I just invite this into my life? And acceptance, I guess, is let me just briefly tell you the 5 stages, and then maybe that would help answer. So something happens that's a significant change or a negative, let's say, perceived negative. The first thing we might do is deny it. Denial is the first stage. Like, this isn't happening. My wife or my husband is not having such a problem that they're thinking about leaving. They'll never leave. It's not happening. This kind of thing. The next thing is, okay, now I've got to face it. It's actually not, it's actually happening. And so the next stage is anger. And I become angry that it's actually happening. I can't ignore it, avoid it. It's there, it's happening. Now I'm angry. Now I've got to deal with this. The next thing that happens is something called bargaining. Well, maybe if I do this and she or he does that and we do this, the problem will kind of go away, bargaining. And then, and by the way, these can flip around. It sounds linear, but it's also, it bounces around. After bargaining becomes sadness and depression. Sadness and depression. I can't deny it, it's real. I was furious about it, but that's not taking it away. I've exhausted myself. And I can't bargain it away. There's no compromise. It's actually happened. I've lost this person. They died. Something like that, right? I can't, there's no way. And so finally, now I'm sad and depressed. I just have to feel this. I have to actually feel it to the depths and allow myself and my body to grieve. And then finally, if I can do that well enough, then finally I accept that this is real. And that somehow I'm going to be able to move through this to the best of my ability. But at least I'm accepting that it's actually happened. And now I can decide what choices I might have. Acceptance just means I'm not skirting the issue. I'm not going over it or under it or around it. I'm being with it. I'm having to accept that it's real. And so what are my choices at this point? So that's what I mean by acceptance. If somebody were to leave me, if I was in a relationship, I would try to do anything I could to preserve that. But at the end of the day, if they left and there was nothing I could do about that, I'm going to go through a natural process of grieving, grief and loss. Ultimately, if I do that well enough and thoroughly enough, and I allow for the process, at the end of it, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to accept that this has happened, and now I have choices. What are mine to be?
Mm-hmm. Very good.
I mean, Joyce, just to your point, though, I should say, at the end of that, I may not be okay with it, right? I may decide, no, I accept that this is real, but I'm not okay with it. And so I have choices there too. I mean, I don't mean to be graphic here, but at the end of the day, I could decide that I don't want to be around anymore. But I've accepted the situation. And so now I'm going to make decisions. At least I've accepted the reality of my situation. He or she's gone. What am I to do? Acceptance just means that we've come to terms with the reality of the situation. What we do with that, that's up in the air.
Yeah, very good.
Another reason to be with support, though, so that somebody can help process that. This is not always our best friend. This can sometimes work against us. Kim knows that, right? We hear about that in the program. And so some support and some bouncing off of some ideas and some maybe a different perspective to kind of open that up a little bit could be a lifesaver. Not just supportive, but could also be a lifesaver.
Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions, you guys, for Tony? Tony, we really, really appreciate you coming on here. I know this is this is a tough, it's a tough angle. That's a tough thing to deal with one-on-one, and what you do. I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do. I'm sure we all do. In a group setting like this, it's got to be even that much more difficult. And we certainly appreciate all your insight and everything. Why don't you tell us real quick, Tony, what's your business name and stuff, just so we have that as well.
Business is called Therapy Talks, and that's what it is. Talking therapy and doing talk therapy. And I have an office in Prineville and one in Redmond. And I take all insurances, but everybody's in Oregon then, yeah?
I'm in California,
Which part?
Mount Shasta.
Oh, okay.
Northern.
Okay, yeah, spent a lot of time in California.
I'm in Prineville.
Prineville, okay, yeah. Are you familiar with Oregon Health Plan, OHP, Pacific Source? MODA, okay, yeah, they take that insurance will pay for that. So anyway, yeah, so the reason I asked if you're in Oregon is because if you've lost job because of functioning and all those things, Oregon Health Plan may be an insurance that you would want to look at, and they certainly cover it. They're very easy, very supportive. So I didn't know if that might help also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tony?
That helps.
Tony, can I make a statement to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Next month will be 3 years since my stroke. When I left the care center in Redding, California, I got no feedback. You was basically, you're on your own. Fortunately, I had a wonderful husband that took me home and took care of me. And just to give you an example, in 1 month, I had 23 appointments with different doctors and therapy and stuff. I got no help. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea what you're going through. I was going to a therapist just recently. I went to her 5 times. At the end of my session, after talking to her, the only thing I got out of it was, oh, time's up. Do you want to make your next appointment next Tuesday at the same time? That was it. What you covered today was an aha moment for me, because I have never heard a therapist talk the way you did today, and I commend you. Every point, everything that you talked about, I thought you were talking about me. And so it was so refreshing to hear somebody that actually has a license that can help a person that's hurting and injured as victims that was stroke. In fact, I told my husband, I wouldn't wish a stroke on my own worst enemy. It's a horrible, horrible ordeal that you have to go through. But I am a firm believer not to give up. I have not given up, and I've come a long, long ways. I'm dealing with a knee that needs to be replaced, but the doctor two surgeons that I've gone to won't touch me unless I lose 30 pounds. So I'm dealing with losing the weight so I can get my knee done. But it's so refreshing. I just want to commend you for coming on here today and making these points that you made, because we need to hear these. We need to hear them, and that we're not all, because sometimes you think you're the only person that's going through this. And then you hear a therapist say, you're not the only one. There's many of you out there. So I just want to thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
everybody, I want to introduce Bunny. Bunny, I'm so glad you could join us.
Thank you.
Bunny, thank you so much. I will make a point on what you said. It's, you know, they say actually that the number one best thing that can happen in therapy, that needs to happen for successful therapy, is that you meet with somebody that you feel comfortable with and confident in. And if you don't feel that in the first session or the second session, move on, move to the next. If that person isn't getting you, or they're rushed, or you feel like you're taking up their time, move on. Don't give them the time of day, because it's not going to help you anyway. The connection you make with somebody is the most important thing in therapy, not the years of experience, not the education, not, you know, their credentials or their techniques or who they know. Your connection with that person, your comfort with that person, your ability to feel comfortable talking to them is the number one thing in therapy that assures the success the most. So thank you for saying that. I'm so sorry you had that experience. And I would imagine you would feel like you're all alone if nobody's giving you information you can use. Everybody seems to kind of not know what they're doing or not know how to help you. I can't imagine that experience, Bunny.
Well, I can tell you horror stories, which I'm not going to get into, but I noticed that around where I live in Redding and in Medford, Oregon, these doctors have no idea they have no idea. And once in a while you'll get one that will admit, I don't know how to treat you. I don't know how to treat a stroke victim. But majority, and I hate to say this, the majority is all about money. I've been to specialists that on their log on the internet, how most of them I find, they swear up and down they can help you. And when you get into their office, they'll admit to you they can't help you. But because they're a specialist, they've charged my insurance company $459 for 25 minutes of their time while they're explaining to you they can't help you.
Lonnie?
Just wanted to offer a comment. You know, I really think as I look at the stroke journey for all of us, and I really think that so many of the primary care physicians and physiatrists truly don't understand the emotional journey it takes to go through stroke recovery. And I think
Yes.
we need to educate them as best we can. You know, they're great at prescribing physical therapy, OT, speech, whatever, but very few of them really understand the emotional roller coaster. So I would encourage all of you to really, you know, try to educate your primary care physician or whoever really prescribes your care, because I don't think they're going to bring it up to us. I have never had a physician bring it up to me. And yet I'm pretty outspoken, and I have absolutely seen therapists through this journey that have really helped me.
It's
Great, Linda.
one of those things, Lonnie, that, I mean, that door that you just opened could be a whole hour for us, because I'm not kidding you, there is so much involved in all this. And I met with Dr. Goins yesterday, and he even, you know, proved to me, I asked him point blank, you know, the times that we're getting with our doctors are so much more diminished because everything's getting incorporated, and, you know, you can't see a private doc anymore that'll take time with you. And he was like, absolutely, that's what's going on. And it's,
Yep.
you know, anyway, I apologize. I started opening that can of worms. Anyway,
So
that's a great topic. Kim?
You know, I just want to add something as well, Keith. The idea, Bunny, bless your heart.
Yes.
I just, for you, sweetheart. But what I want to say to us is, just this one little switch of thinking when you said stroke victim. And, you know, when we think of ourselves as a victim, that brings a can of worms. And I want to suggest that to switch that word to a stroke thriver, a stroke survivor, that, you know, gives you more energy. When you're a victim, you feel, you know, you feel like things are happening to you. When you're a survivor, you have choices. And it's what Tony was talking about. We must find it a way to give ourselves choices, you know.
I understand what you're saying. I consider myself a survivor because of the fact that if you do me from the day I had my stroke until today, I have friends tell me it's like night and day. They said, I cannot believe how far you've come. But it's like you go up the top of a hill and you get up there and you just don't have the energy to get down the other side. And you just have to keep going and saying to yourself, which I do, I'm never going to give up. I lay in bed at night, sometimes waiting to fall asleep, thinking of what can I do tomorrow to make this better. And I have another game plan. And the sad part of it is my insurance company, and I have Medicare and TRICARE. They are absolutely fantastic. I have not been out a dime, other than the fact that I've spent all this money, my insurance company has spent all this money, and I don't see them helping me at all. The only help I've ever got is from myself, because I spend time Googling stuff and reading and educating myself, because I can't get the information from the doctors or the therapists that I go to around where I live. So to have Tony where you guys have, I mean, you guys are one lucky bunch of people, because he sounds fantastic. There's nobody like that down here.
So Tony, is there suggestions where that you might know, you know California, is there therapy for her that she could even do it on the phone?
You know, it's hard to hear, because there's,
Yeah,
especially in
it
California,
is.
there's so many therapists in California, you know, per capita. I think it's like, you know, 1 out of 2 people in California is a therapist. But again, I guess, I mean, what I tell people typically to try to save time and be efficient in your search is to look at the insurance company's website that you have for the insurance, and find providers, at least in the beginning to start with, that take that insurance and they're in network, and then that they have availability. And if you can, see if you can have a conversation over the phone, like 10, 15 minutes of their time, and just see how you feel with that person. And if they won't, but they will meet with you, then meet with them, but just try to gauge how you feel with them and move on. I don't know of specific providers in Northern California. But so, and even if I did, it's a great question, because I could point you to the most incredible therapist that I know personally, and you might meet with that person and go, no clicking here. I mean, you know, so that's the problem with referrals as well. It's such a personal connection, where you just either feel it's right or you feel that it's wrong, not right. And so again, with the credentials, the education, the techniques, all of these things are referred by this amazing person that you know, you might not make the connection. So it's just a little bit of therapist shopping is what it is.
So Tony, one more.
And Tony, oh yeah, I was just going to say, somebody asked on the chat, for your name again, and do you do your therapy over the phone, or do people have to come to your office?
So first I want to say, I'm happy to help in any way. You know, if you have questions, if I can just be available to answer any questions to help you further from here without you having to make an appointment or come in for, I mean, I'm happy to help. If you have questions, feel free to call me and just ask questions, and I'm happy to help you, or to help you find somebody. If you want to see me, I typically do things face to face. For me, you know, if you know, you want the best opportunity to be effective in what we're doing here. For me, that means we're together. You know, the pandemic has created this Zoom thing, but therapy is a very personal connection and movement and process of cognitive and emotional. I don't do any of it by Zoom, and I have not done any of it since the beginning of the pandemic. So that's my preference. However, if that's the only way to do it, I would consider it, and certainly not for couples or families. So it's a long answer to your question. I prefer to do it face to face, in person. You know, there's so much that's happening there in body language and gestures for you to understand me. I don't want you to miss anything over a computer. For me to understand you, the same thing. And so that's why I prefer to do things that way.
So Tony, is
Great.
therapytalks.com, is that how we would find you?
Therapytalks.org.
Org.
Somebody already took the .com.
And so what I'm going to do, with your permission,
Yes, sir.
is I'm gonna find your site and I'll get your phone number and all that. If, with your permission, I'm gonna send that out to our group here.
And again, if you just have questions, if I can help in some way that you don't actually want to come in and do therapy, anything I can do to help, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Yes,
Well, I'm
thank
gonna-
you.
Thank you again, Tony. I can't even tell you how much we appreciate it. I do need to move on.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna talk about just a couple more things, you guys, for everybody. We've got a meeting. Well, the next meeting is on the 27th, okay? And we're gonna have Maura Murphy talk, who's a PT, who recently moved to Bend. And she's going to describe the wellness in rehab program. She's got a whole talk on that. So the other thing I wanted to say is we have our barbecue coming up, and that's going to be June 10th. And it's June 10th. And for stroke survivors and their families, we're thinking about 4 to 6 is what we were thinking. And so what I want to do is I'm going to email everybody via that link that you guys get for the stroke meetings, and I'll talk about it, because what I want is some feedback. You know, we're talking about the Phoenix restaurant maybe again. We did that a year ago or so, or the Pine Nursery Park, you know, some kind of venue like that. And we wanted to get a little feedback from everybody before we set it and get ready to do it. But we're so looking forward to getting out and seeing one another, even if it is with masks on, again before too long. So I wanted to be sure and talk about that as well. Any good of the order, so to speak? Anybody got anything specific?
I had a question.
Yeah,
I need to say goodbye. I'm so sorry. I have an appointment.
good seeing you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Thank you so much for your input.
Yes. Go ahead, Ramona.
I was curious if anybody else had any thoughts or have got feedback from their doctors about the vaccinations, the COVID vaccinations.
Anybody?
Well, yeah, I did. I wanted to ask my doctor because the question was blood thinners. Blood thinners are not to be complicate the process. So I asked my doctor, and he said, yes, go ahead and take it. I've had the first shot.
Well, that's great, Joyce. Thank you. Did you catch that?
Yes, my doctor recommended it. I'm just real nervous about it. Is anybody else nervous about it? Or is it just,
Yeah.
I am.
No, I've had both. I was early on. I think my first shot was in early January. And then the second one, of course, a few weeks later. I had no side effects whatsoever.
really? That's good to know.
I took that secondary shot that LeMay had set up for everybody. And I got sick for a couple of days. It wasn't like deathly sick or anything, but I had a fever. I had a fever and I had night sweats for 3 nights, actually. But other than that, I felt pretty good, and I'm certainly glad. For me, I was certainly glad to have had it. So,
Well, I was set up for a Johnson & Johnson actually today. And then this morning I got notice that they'd taken it off the market because of complications with blood clots. So that was like a close call, but I'm just debating, you know, whether to go ahead and get like Pfizer or Moderna.
that is something, frankly, Mona, that I would offer you to talk to your doctor about.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want any of us to put our 2 bits in
Oh,
there.
I was just curious if anybody had got any advice from their doctor one way or the other. And, you know, what kind of experiences other people had had.
Right. Right. Well, you know, it's funny that now they're coming out with this Johnson & Johnson thing, and I'll let you know. I guess my sense of humor doesn't always go well with everybody. So
Is that the one you got? No, you got 2 shots, right?
no, I got the Johnson &
Oh,
Johnson.
you did? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel really good. So
well, they said it's only like 6 out of 6 million or something. So it's a pretty small amount, you know?
yeah. Yeah. Anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I have a suggestion. I know you're going to be putting Tony's information out to all of us, but would it be a good idea to add him to the SAO website for resources for anybody who has a stroke and might be looking for a resource?
Great point, Steve. Now, Lane, tell us a little bit about where we're at with the new website.
Oh, okay. So here's a quick update. We have a new website. SAO has a new website. We're just about ready to launch. It's going to be very content rich, and we will be redoing our resource directory. So Steve, that's a great suggestion. I want to really update that resource directory. I need some help to do it. If anybody wants to volunteer to help, to kind of help organize that, we could use that. But you're going to love our new website. It is really going to just offer a lot of tools. We'll have videos on there. We'll have all kinds of information. Maybe we can get Tony to write something that we can post on our website, that kind of thing.
Thank you, Steve. That was great. Really appreciate that. That was a great idea. Anybody else? Hey, I want to personally say thank you to all of you guys. I'm not joking. It means the world to us to have this organization, this group. I talk to a lot of people clear across the nation a lot of time, and no one is really doing what we're doing, and we need to be proud of it. And I would love to see us continue to grow it. So if anybody knows of anybody who, wants to come on board, or, just visit, they don't even have to be a stroke survivor, right, Lily? And, we want to keep growing it, because that's where we're getting good content. We get to help one another. We get to know one another. And that's the important stuff here, you guys. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for this group. And anyway, that's my 2 bits. So with that, I guess.
Oh, Joyce, thank you. I'll be in touch with you.
Very much.
That would be great. I'd love to work with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well,
Okay,
thanks,
thank-
everybody. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, Tony, so much.
Bye.
Wonderful to be here. Nice to see you guys.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.